All right, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to people from wherever you're joining us across the globe. I would like to welcome you all to an exciting new endeavor, part of where, this is the very first of our webinars that is of the entire series, which we're going to wholly and solely focus on testing. And I would like to welcome everyone again. So, I know that move over the entire process of where you sit back, you sit at home, and then you read something. It's extremely important that we've got people joining us, and then people are willing to learn. And guys, just a quick request which I'll keep on repeating. Whatever questions you've got, so since you've taken or since you're looking to take out an hour of your time, of your precious time, wherever you are across the globe, if you've got questions, please note them down, write them up, use your fancy words, and feel free to put them through so that our couple of extremely enthusiastic panelists, couple of people who are extremely learned and they have buttloads of experience in testing domain, so that those guys can answer those questions for you. Now, the very webinar, I would like to, just ensure that we are wholly and solely focused on testing A to Z. We're not going to go from A to B to C. We're going to go A to Z, 360 degrees. Bots to brains. That's what this webinar is called. Future of automation testing. All right. Now, I know that plenty of times we've got these questions where, okay, AI versus humans. The death of manual testing. I know when I started about 10, 12 odd years back, everybody said, oh, manual testing is dead. Manual testing is dead. Okay, let's see if we can answer that today. Now, whether AI can replace human beings or it can't, how would we go about it? What's the best, level of equilibrium that we could attain of human and AI? All right, so let's find out. Now, before we get deep into the thick of things, I am going to get into quickly introducing our extremely distinguished speakers, our panelists. So first off, we've got Melissa. Now, Melissa is a renowned expert in software testing with extensive experience in Agile, QA, and DevOps. Now, she currently holds the role of technology enablement and quality engineering at Campminder, and is also principal consultant at Disrupt Testing. Now, she specializes in software quality from design to delivery, emphasizing on efficiency, innovation, and culture. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to Melissa.
Great to be here. Thank you very much. Very interested in this topic and looking forward to all the questions and collaboration that's going to come our way in the next 50 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Melissa, for taking the time out to join us. Now, next up, we've got Marcel, a distinguished AI specialist. Now, he has dedicated his career on software testing, progressing from test analyst to test management roles, focusing on integration and performance testing. He co-founded ProTest and Tesna, leading teams across Europe to enhance software quality for clients. Marcel is also founder of Whoopee.io, advancing autonomous testing solutions. Marcel, welcome to we're really pleased to have you on board. So thank you so much for taking time out to joining us. So guys, please,
thank
a round of
you
applause.
for having me. Really looking forward to discuss these topics.
All right. Now, guys, so our very first topic that I would probably bring out to you. Now, we hear a lot of fancy terms, uber automation, hyper automation. Now, what I have actually seen that over the, ever since we've moved past COVID, the lockdowns, everything going digital, and we've seen a lot of, areas where, we've started to move over plain vanilla, basic vanilla Selenium, where somebody knows Selenium, and then, the world is at his or her feet or at their doorstep. Now, we've seen a lot of areas where, people are integrating or people are leveraging AI, machine learning, RPA to create a self-learning ecosystem, a self-learning testing ecosystem. Now, as per Gartner's estimation, by 2024, businesses are predicted to try and reduce operational costs by 30%. Now, when we say 30% from a billion, that's almost 300 million. And then, so on and so forth. So, what do you think? I'm going to leave the floor open, to both of you. What do you think? How do you think we can get to a point where we create a self-learning testing ecosystem, be it creation of test cases, to your test reports, to logging bugs, to creating, a test data? So, Melissa, would you like to take a first stab at it?
Yes, you bet. This is a very, very popular topic and conversation, as I mentioned earlier. I think AI is the big thing that we're all talking about right now, and we have to learn from the past. First of all, how did we pivot when mobile was introduced? There was a lot of frenzy and a lot of just introducing, and a lot of teams and investments started for mobile. And then once we got used to that, there wasn't really a need to have a specialized practice of mobile because it was so embedded and ingrained in how we designed, solutioned, and then ultimately delivered solutions. I would say here, AI should be looked at like most other technologies that we've introduced into our world of software engineering and within the SDLC. And as technologists, which I believe we all are technologists that are on this webinar, certainly, we should be looking at technology and us being early embracers and adopters of technology. I think a lot of times where we see differences in how we approach those, sometimes when we frame those conversations where AI will replace humans, or just like automation will replace human testers, that was the argument 20 plus years ago. In some cases, it may replace humans if humans are not willing to step into and embrace tools and technology and become early adopters of using technology to the best of its capability. I think we will continue to have these cyclical and repeated introductions of new and emerging technologies that cause either fear or that cause excitement. I take the side of it causes excitement. Again, we're at the forefront of this. We should be embracing them. And I think we should learn from our experience before to ensure that when we do use AI to help automate these repetitive tasks, then we should be responsible with that implementation as well.
All right. Marcel, you want to jump in?
Yeah. I think it was nicely covered, but what I would maybe add to that, I could see two parallels there. One is the discussion about test automation we had 20 years ago, and when I was applying for my first job in testing in 2004, my manager asked me whether I would be willing to start writing some code to automate some tests. And this topic was discussed last 20 years, and we were always told that once we buy this brilliant tool, we could fire actually almost entire department. And that story just repeats. We just changed the term automation with AI. But I saw that this last 2 decades that nothing's changed. And as Melissa said, mobile phones or Google search, there were training for that in the past, but nowadays it's pretty standard. So I believe that AI will become just another component. No one is somehow promoting that they are using databases or they have backend and frontend. So this will become another component. And once this has become another component, I believe we are there. The AI will start working as we expect to work and will be beneficial. Because we are now we are in an era where we are transforming these PowerPoint slides of all visions and everything into something tangible. And I think we are still not there, but I could see already some use cases where we could see the benefits. It's there. But the other trend which is going against this, the industry is growing. So are we saving by firing the people, or are we able to deliver more with the same teams? And how to sell this to the management, how to deal with that challenge we are facing. So there are plenty of topics to which we could open and discuss, but there are automation versus AI. The stories just keep repeating. Technology and how advanced we could be, or how we could absorb that idea. And then market move, like in terms of business, how the business is moving, how it's growing. We need to adapt. And I know that some roles or job roles will disappear, but we will need to adapt and just follow the trends. So I think there is a lot going on there, and we'll see. It's pretty exciting era, but I think last 20 years of my career is pretty exciting. I'm still in software testing, and I still enjoying that. So sorry.
Yeah, that's
Give it.
it's see, when we listen from people who've been, in the industry, and then people are still learning, people still enjoy. A bunch of our people who are attending, bunch of these, 100 odd people that we've got to tuning into you, and Melissa as well. So it's always nice to see that, hey, there's plenty still to learn, and then learning never stops. So that's extremely interesting and exciting, because like, right, you bothly said, it's always finding the AI would, again, it's an opinion. AI cannot replace human beings, but some areas or some parts or processes in organizations can actually be replaced. And like, Marcel said, this is a conversation I was just having with one of my with one of my directors. Hey, can we use, or can we train people to use these AI tools to actually give us more? If you're giving me 100 per percent efficiency, can that go to 150? Can we do more with a similar head count? So that's one of those things that's we'll have to wait and find out. So we'll have to see. But then, we've evolved. If I have to be honest and candid about it, I got into manual testing because I didn't want to code. As it turns out, in the last 10, 12 odd years, I started off with, learning Python, and then I moved over to C#. Then I moved on to, trying my hand with Java. So I'm as long as you're willing to learn, I think it's always good. You're always ahead of the curve.
Yeah, but I think there will be still a human in the driving seat, or on the driving seat. We just improve and change our tools and how we work nowadays. And I believe you could nowadays start with some maybe light automation, even start coding, because these AI powered tools might help you in some specific use cases. Maybe it's still just hello world era for AI, but we already see some first signals how this could be beneficial for us. In some use cases, it's pretty beneficial. So I believe there is no way to humans to be replaced. For me, that's my opinion for next 10 years. I don't wanna maybe guess what will happen after that, but in software testing, I cannot see any big move that we could be fully replaced. But of course, we will stop doing some activities like we did in past, because we could be much more efficient using some clever tools.
For sure. So that exact sentiment is followed but with the next topic that we have. So that's
I'd actually like to because there's a question here, and I think this is an important question. We talked about how we have leveraged or would choose to leverage AI, but what's a specific example of successful AI human collaboration and testing? We've done something just in the last few months where we've actually implemented AI around accessibility testing. And so for accessibility in the United States, there are some laws, ADA, and those apply across globally. But for laws that we provide, there's the WCAG, and I think that they're in 3.0 or maybe even 4.0 right now, but very specific compliancy, and depending on the level of compliancy your company is seeking, there are accessibility tests that we can run. We've actually piloted and have been seeing lots of really good success around using AI to generate and tie through those WCAG specific tests and build those into our test management tools, as well as our test automation tools and frameworks that we're using. So we've actually piloted around accessibility testing. And I'd say, because this is kind of the theme here, so that's one example. We've had others that we've been used, but happy to share more on those. But the other thing is that we should be using, as we've all mentioned, that AI, and even though it is much more powerful than a lot of tools that we've introduced and technologies that we've introduced during our careers, it is still a piece of technology, and it's also an approach on how we do that. There are ways that we can do that responsibly, and it kind of starts from the top. So I would consider any time that we are even looking at an AI solution within our companies, that there are compliancy guidelines that are being written or that exist now in the use of AI. And we've also gone through that exercise. That took us about 3 to 4 months to be able to widely push that out to the rest of the company, but that's in place now. So I would talk about AI, and getting used to that is excellent, and we should all be doing that, but we should also make sure that we are following compliancy and guidelines whenever we apply those to the companies that we're working with as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of people, when it comes to using ChatGPT, there are a lot of questions that revolve around how safe is your data? Because, when we've used it personally, because a lot of the times you work with these organizations, you've got these standard procedures, these compliances that, you are not allowed, because I work with a few banks. I mean, and you need to be on the soil in the United States to actually be able to access that data, or if you're using up a VPN or a remote, or you're doing a remote desktop. Now, those are compliance issues that, and then how safe are these new tools? Because, data, be it related to these domains, say healthcare or banks, right? Banking industry. Now, a lot of these times, the data that we are feeding into these, tools, that's also a big thing that we've seen when it comes to compliance. Now, a lot of people have these questions. If you've got a HIPAA secure room in your organization, for you to be able to work on a specific project that needs HIPAA, clearance, and so on and so forth. So that's one very important thing. Now, circling back now, like Marcel and Melissa rightly said, this actually ties greatly into the next point that we had, which is, the role of humans in the future of testing. And then I think, Marcel and Melissa have already delved quite deeply into these pointers, where I would probably come with a problem statement. Or maybe it's a mental block. I would want you to guys, to maybe try and help me out of this conundrum. So say AI creates a development. AI develops a site. So AI creates, and AI tests. We as humans, are we that confident into something that's been created by AI and something that's been tested by AI to put it out in the world? Or is that industry or is that industry dependent? Maybe when it comes to healthcare or aviation, we still would need we're still not too confident. But if it's a vanilla site, it's just a website that's got, say, 50 pages. It's just, you got a bunch of forms, you're selling a bunch of products. That's okay. We're okay to let that be created and tested by AI, but maybe not something that's, or maybe it's got to do with our, it's the basic of, one of the basic, features or fundamentals of software testing. Testing is context dependent, So what do you guys think? Marcel, do you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, I think this will change, but nowadays I think we still need to have some human in the loop, and the edge will move because we will be more confident with the results, and also it's like context or industry dependent. Probably some safety critical systems might require more human to be involved, But this will change, and nowadays what people talk about is some multi-agent system. So you have a couple of AIs which could basically check each other. So one agent is just dedicated for development, another one is for code review, another one is for something else. So you can like cross-check all the outputs by other agents which are not dependent each other, because that was one of the criticism that according some studies that even humans cannot find by themselves maybe half of their mistakes they create by programming or creating anything. So this is still developing and pretty new idea. So I'm not sure how quickly we could get there, but I believe we will start maybe moving the edge what we could afford to let the AI run without us, and where we need to still step in. And I could, again, some other parallel. I don't know whether you remember, but I have had a couple of friends who was concerned about GPS navigation, and they were disabling that on our phones because they said, okay, I don't want someone else to monitor me. But then the navigations couldn't work, and a lot of other features in a mobile phones we disabled. The same discussion was with cloud, migrating to the cloud. There was no way to migrate some financial institution to the cloud. Nowadays, who is outside the cloud or who is not using that? So this is drifting as well, and I believe we will change that perspective, how we are looking on that, what's good and what's not good, or where we are not certain to let it be and let the machine decide. It will move. So that's my view on that. And of course, we are at early stage still to be a bit careful what we accept to be done automatically and when we want to step in.
Fair enough. Melissa, you want to add on?
I would say, I mean, yes, I completely agree with what Marcel just mentioned there. I think it is that human component it's difficult. I think where we've found success in the last, and because I've been with my current role as head of technology enablement for almost a year now, we've learned a lot of things as we've implemented. So under enablement in my company, just to give a little bit of background, technology enablement consists of 3 practices. One of them is quality engineering, which is what I've mostly my career has been focused on, right? Quality engineering, but there, as we all know, that there's lots and lots of overlap and interlay between those. So quality engineering, and then we actually have an AI enablement function and practice, and then we also have an agile function. So all 3 of those practices make up technology enablement at the current company that I'm at. So part of it is once we were going through how do we want to build compliancy around AI? What are the guidelines that we want to provide to all members of our company when using AI to emphasize responsibility and compliance and adherence to those guidelines that we put in play? And what we found when we were talking about the AI component specifically was that we had a lot more productive and valuable conversations when we started shifting the conversation to what do we want AI to help us do? And when we shifted that from what are the things that AI cannot or should not do, and what are the things that AI can and should do? And that really gave us such a nice lens to start considering when AI should be considered and refined and having more discussions about, and when it shouldn't. And so that very quick kind of sorting and categorization process really helped guide a lot of those conversations, which then came out where the compliancy guidelines that we documented and put out for our company was much easier because we almost had a built-in set of frequently asked questions, because we were looking at it from the lens of what should and it shouldn't do, and what should it absolutely never do, and where do we need the humans to be there. So starting those conversations, making sure that information is centralized and accessible by everyone that might even be learning about AI, it was really pivotal. So I would say for those of you who may be looking at compliancy, I know that there's some questions around compliancy guidelines and all that. I would say learn the lessons from those of us who've done this right there, and really kind of start with making sure that those compliancy and guidelines are very readily available by everyone in the company.
All right. That makes a lot of sense from from an organizational perspective. That sheds a lot of light on how we can probably take a look at it from a very nascent level of how we can sort of build our thought or build our approach. So now the next topic, that's probably AI versus humans. Who wins? I think to a certain point where we've it probably also takes us to somewhat form of conclusion, or sort of an area where we're pragmatic about it. Humans are not on their way out. Let's be honest about that. But then, accepting it or digesting, like Melissa just said, that people need to, when you create, awareness in your organization, when you've got these standards or, these compliance that, you need to meet of what it can do and compared to what it should actually be doing. Because something like, for example, recruiting, picking data off an Excel file, or downloading people's resumes or CVs and feeding into an HRIS system. That's a classic area of what it should do, But when it comes to interacting, with your probable people who've applied for a specific post, that's still part of the human area where we should go. But then, what do you think? When it comes to humans or AI, I know there are no winners in this, but humans who can learn how to interact, or who can learn how to use AI or AI powered tools, I believe that's the real winner. Please, guys, Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I would agree. And I was just going to say, I think the clear winner is the humans in this, right? What we see is an extremely powerful tool that is so powerful that we need to start talking about compliancy and guidelines on its use, right? Like it's going through web and then mobile and then all of the other things that have come up in my 28 years of my career. I've seen this story time and time again. What I haven't seen that AI has introduced is just simply how powerful it is and how much attention it has garnered outside of our technology world, right? It is a global phenomenon and everyone is looking at using it, or at least it's at the forefront. So I think in that case, to have the ability to tap into such a powerful tool and technology as AI, that clearly makes the humans the winner in this situation. Again, we're always going to advocate for responsible use. And as Marcel mentioned, we don't know. Who knows where we will be in 10 years? I know where we are right now. And we can probably predict in the next 6 to 12 months. But after that, we're just going to need to be reading the headlines and seeing all of the things that people are sharing on their use and implementation of AI across the board, right? So we're paying attention to a lot of that. But I think that the winner here is the humans, as long as we're doing that, and we as folks that have the privilege of collaborating with 100 of us, right? There's about 100 of us on this webinar right now, and our responsibility, we wouldn't be doing, I think, our role as leaders in our industry if we didn't advocate for the responsible use, but also sharing both our challenges and where we've maybe failed and where we've addressed those mistakes, but more importantly, those successes, and to not continue that dialogue where it is an us versus them, right? It's an AI versus the world, or AI versus humans, or AI is going to take over your job, right? We've seen that play out time and time again. The manual testing is dead topic that has plagued our industry for 15 plus years, right? I think we have an opportunity to change that narrative and say, become that early adopter and embracer of this technology and do it in that responsible way. And I know I keep repeating that, but that is such a fundamental approach to adopting AI, and to use it in the right way, the right and responsible way.
Yeah, with great power comes great responsibility. That specific thing has been quoted plenty of times, but I'm still going to quote it again. So, Marcel, you want to add on to what Melissa just said?
Yeah, it just reminds me some interesting discussions I had about spreadsheet tools. It's something like if someone would say Microsoft Excel versus humans, would that work? It sounds a bit funny, no? But when that was when some spreadsheet tool was introduced, maybe accountants might be somehow impacted by that because they just need to switch from the calculator to something more powerful. So I think it's not about AI versus human, but it's human with AI versus human. So probably if we will be too late to adapt, maybe we might lose against those who will be more flexible. But sometimes it might be too early to jump on the train because it's not ready yet. So that's the biggest and most challenging question: what to focus on and when to step in that area, not to be too late or too early, because that would be my view, and that might like a tough question. I don't know what might be the answer. How to build your own personal strategy or your company strategy, what to focus on first, how to adjust the team or my personal skills to keep or to be relevant in next year or in next 6 months or 2 years, and not to be overexcited about some buzz, because there is some maybe dead ends in that movement, and focus on the right things. So this is the tough question, but I wouldn't see that in that way, like AI versus human.
Perfect. I think we echo the same sentiment when it comes specifically, like, you rightly said, Marcel, that it's humans versus humans plus AI, or humans who know how to leverage AI. So definitely the winner there, as we see right now, it's I mean, the money should definitely be on, humans who know how to leverage and how to use AI. So, which brings me to the last and the most important point of discussion, wherein, all of these people who are actually tuned in, some of these are probably, like I see in the Q&A, guys, we'll get to, I know a bunch of you guys have sent out notes in the chat and in the Q&A. So I will get into those right maybe in the next 5 to 8 minutes. All right. I appreciate and I thank you for your patience. So now the question that I had, maybe, and a few of these guys who've, punched in those questions into the chat or into the Q&A box. So some of these guys are probably starting their careers. Some of them are, maybe 4 or 5 years into their, journey as a test engineer. And then some of them are probably like me, 10, 12 years of experience. And, we're trying to learn new ways of where and, how we can implement some of these new things out there. So personally speaking, I'm going to, and I would really love for you guys to even, name a few tools so that, how to get started, because it always boils down to how to get that mindset, how to get started. Now, a couple of guys in chat have mentioned about Tosca. I mean, I've worked with Tosca, for a couple of projects. I've worked with Testim as well. That's another product that Tricentis, and then people are out there who we've got the good old QTP that's turned into that's been rechristened as UFT, or rebranded, and then we've got these good old open source tools. We've got WebDriver.io, we've got Selenium, we've got Cypress. So how do we get started? Or for somebody who's just at the start of their career, or somebody who already is working with Selenium, he knows a scripting language or two. So how and where and what, how do we get started, or how do we sort of try or turn that shift in our in our mindset?
Who should start?
Okay. Marcel, You can, since you spoke first, we'll let you take a
Okay.
stab at it first.
I could start. I
Yeah,
have a
please go
simple
for it. Go for it.
try YouTube. I hope that the joke was
Yeah, for sure.
working, at least for me. No, that's pretty difficult question. I think it looks like I remember the era where we were saying, okay, maybe you are not technical enough, so you will be good in business, so you will be test analyst, you will write test cases and everything. Now it looks like we are moving more to the technical, like part or era, but with the AI, it looks like technical skills are not needed anymore. But you need to be orientated in all these areas because you still drive and validate what output you are getting. So what I would now do as a graduate or student in that era, I would try to explore as much as possible options to see and understand how the things work. And if then there is a plenty of discussion whether Cypress or Playwright or Selenium or WebDriver IO or whatever you name it, Nightwatch, and we could go into some Puppeteer or any other web automation tools. And there is a lot of fight around this. And we could discuss the same is going with AI nowadays. It looks like that machine learning is not the sexy topic anymore, and everyone turned into LLM. So there is, and I was running some workshop in May, and one slide it was outdated. Next day I prepared it. I had 10 options which LLM I could use, from Google through Amazon, some open source options, OpenAI. So, and if you look at what's the difference, there is just different. They are slightly different, but you need to understand the principles. So probably I would explore all the areas I could deal with in testing, and trying to go for the principles. I do not need to go deeper in one tool because most of the things, for instance, I'm delivering a lot of workshops on Cypress, on Robot Framework and Playwright, and I'm using these LLM tools easily. I just copy paste my code and say, please rewrite from Cypress to Playwright. And it's like this. Of course, sometimes it's horrible what I'm getting, but if you tweak it a bit, then you get the technical details very, very quickly. So I would try to understand the principles. I would try to learn how to, based on these principles, could drive the solution, solve the problem. But you don't need to be expert nowadays on the technologies. Or I think we are moving there. Maybe we are not still there yet, but a lot of stuff could be easily found, but you need to know how you will solve the problem.
Like you said, that I totally agree with that. It reminds me of the good old days when Stack Overflow was a new thing. So you used to go to Google, you search, hey, I'm getting this exception, and then Stack Overflow gives you a bunch of people helping you out with it. So that's just sort of in a very nice way it's been implemented. Even when you pick up a piece of code from Stack Overflow, or you use, like you said, that when you get one of these tools to rewrite from A to B, the code might not always, you can't always copy paste it. So you will need some amount of human intervention to ensure that it sort of fits like a glove instead of it being having an extra finger. So yeah, perfect. Melissa, what's your thought?
I'd say the basics, right? I do a talk around what I think the role of QE is, right? And there's a very specific definition that I use for QE, quality engineer, and the outcome where when I'm asked, like, when do we know when we're operating as a quality engineer? The answer that I give is when we're so influential to the building of the solution that things don't start until we've been engaged in those conversations, right? So we know that we are fully operating as an extremely optimized team with QE in there when we are part of those conversations just as close as our software engineer counterparts are. So I say that because I think I see the role of quality engineers changing to become more generalized, where 15, 20, 25 years ago, we would have folks that were specialized in one or possibly two commercial automation tools. And that is how they started their career, or that's how they enhanced their career. And they focused on becoming specialized experts in tools. That is no longer the case in a lot of companies. It's absolutely still the case in a lot of companies. And if you are one of those, folks that are specialized in tooling, that's great. You have found your niche there. But as Marcel mentioned, I think understanding there isn't now in 2024 the need to become so specialized in a tool or a technology. It's much more important to have a good and perhaps slightly deeper understanding of all of the tools and technology that are available to us, and certainly to become experts in the tools and technology that are in place at your company. And more importantly, I think to be able to understand where quality engineers can assist in enhancing other roles on our team's own testing. I think getting out of that assumption that because we have test or quality in our titles naturally, that we are somehow the only person or team that's responsible for that. Testing and quality is a shared responsibility. It has nothing to do with testing and what we do as our industry. You either produce quality work as an employee of a company or you don't. And if you are not capable of producing quality work, then that is a conversation that happens between you and your manager, not you and the QA or the testing team, right? So when we start shaping what the role of a test engineer or quality assurance analyst is on that, then we find ourselves in a really great opportunity to be able to enhance that and to see where are the needs that aren't currently being addressed right now, and where can I, as somebody who has testing expertise, add value by being able to consult and make recommendations on tools and technology and approaches to take from a holistic testing landscape view. And I think that's where we see the shift of our industry moving, much more generalist versus specialist in tools and technology.
Yeah, I think that's what I've seen with a couple of people, or not a couple of people, or a couple of people I personally have known. I've had the opportunity to work with a couple of guys who've been working with when you're a specialist, the opportunity or the amount of opportunity, you're in that niche skill set, but the opportunities that you may have, should you wish to exercise, they are quite limited. But like Marcel also said, when you're getting to a point where you are, you need to understand the thought process. It's always about building or understanding how things flow, what the flow is, how you go from A to B and then to Z. If you're only looking at from a very granular level of just going from A to B, it doesn't make any sense. But when you're looking at the entire flow, you're looking to analyze a solution. You can only analyze or suggest solutions if you know how the entire process works. So that's very important. And then learning things. If you develop a mindset, correct me if I'm wrong. So when you develop a certain mindset, using any tool or leveraging any AI powered tool or an open source tool like Selenium, or an AI powered tool like Tosca, if you have that thought process, it's very easy to work with these tools. If you don't have that thought process, you can write 100 or 2,000 lines of code, but you would not be able to deliver quality. So that's one of them things. So we have 15 minutes left, so I'm going to quickly do a quick conclusion of these wonderful thoughts that we've exchanged. People have probably had, if let's say if they've not understood the entire conversation that we've had, but I'm hoping if they've consumed some bits of it, I think people are on the right track. So AI is important, it is out there, and it is for some of us, or if not all of us, it is for some of us. If we can use it or if we can utilize it, we have a really bright future. Of course, AI becoming sentient is a totally different, rabbit hole that we are not going to go down that hatch tonight. But use AI, and if we can leverage those tools, and if we develop a certain mindset, any tool that you use, be it AI powered, or if it's not, you can leverage other AI tools out there to ensure you're on top of your game. But for this, patience is extremely important. Hey, self-driving cars, who thought 15, 20 years back that would be a thing? But now it's out there. It's not as if we've mastered it, but we're inching towards it, right? And then likewise for AI in the case of testing, maybe we would be at a point 10, 15, maybe we'd be sitting, at the same conversation table, similar people who are attending us, Melissa, Marcel, and I. And then we'd probably be having the similar conversation. Hey, this is what we discussed 10 years back. And look where we are right now. We were right on XYZ, and then we were wrong on ABC. So it's always nice to, know that where we are right and then where we can always improve. So guys, thank you so much for your time. Now, unless you guys want to add something, I would quickly jump into the Q&A session. All right. We have the seal of approval from both our
Let's do the
distinguished
question.
guests. Okay, all right. So, would recommend. So an anonymous person asked. So I wanted to ask our esteemed panelists about the initial steps that they would recommend taking to implement a hyper automation in a traditional. I think we answered that in the last point that we just discussed. So I'm going to mark that as answered. Now, how can AI help in predicting potential defects and improving software quality? Anybody, guys? Melissa, Marcel, one of you guys might want to take a quick stab at it.
I could.
Please go for it.
Go ahead, please. Yeah.
Before the LLM, we were trying to target this by traditional machine learning approach, where we were able to somehow collect the data and then classify them or predict what will happen. And there were a couple of algorithms where we could see that system quality degrades, if it's correct English term. And basically we were able to collect some metrics or measure what the quality means. It might be response time, it might be some number of defects in production from production logs and so on. And with this data, we could predict what will happen in 2 weeks. And this is the way how that could work. Nowadays, I think this might slightly drift from that approach, because I'm still not certain about what will happen, like a next step with AI, with this huge LLM move. I believe that a lot of algorithms will be just like deprecated and replaced by something which is available in the large models, because it's cheaper, quicker. I don't know whether it's cheaper, but it's quicker and more generic and maybe clever, and you don't need to implement it using some code and understanding the mathematics. It's like it generates the stuff. So in short, I hope it was clear what I was trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. I
There are a couple of algorithms which could cover this topic. And if you want to experiment with some open source tools, you can maybe explore PyTorch or TensorFlow. One is from Google, another one is from Meta. But it's pretty raw coding. It's not nicely polished, packaged. You need to.
Okay, so we we are at a point where, we can, bring the camel some water, but then the drinking part has to be left to the camel.
Yeah.
So we'll let that be a question or or a part of our conversation somewhere down the line. So a couple of similar questions. So what are the main challenges that company face when integrating AI into their testing processes? Now that could be movement from an existing outdated or a legacy framework to a new tool, migration of tests from an old framework to a new one, people challenges. So anything else, Melissa, you might want to add on challenges when it comes to introducing AI?
Yeah, I think it the way that to learn from our mistakes, right? When automation, and especially open source automation, we went from having commercial tools. Really, only the transaction would happen between the tool salesperson and the person who had the authority to write a check for a budget, right? Like that's essentially how commercial tools get into a company. And there may be some folks that go in there when, with the advent of open source tools, that gave the power to the people, right? Now we have the ability, without needing to get approval from a budget standpoint, to start using tools and technology there. And so what we wound up doing, we had a lot of individual solutions that were done, but not necessarily comprehensive solutions that were done at the organization level. So then we created functions to say, hey, we need to be able to keep track of the tools and technology that we're using for our own internal development to make sure that we have proper guidelines and usage in there. So I think from that question specifically, I think where the challenges are that we should not be setting ourselves up for failure again by saying automate everything or use AI for everything. Anytime we use superlative terms like that, somebody will always interpret that exactly the way that it sounds. My job is to use AI for every single task that I get paid for as a part of my employment with this company or whatever that transaction is. So I think, making sure that there is not some false number or some arbitrary number or percentage of things to do, but to make sure that we have the space and the ability with proper guidelines in place so that people can bring their creative brain to work and use AI to put solutions in place within those guidelines, but not for it to be so prescriptive where it is simply a task and a checklist thing where we are not having the humans tap into their brain, which is the most important tool that we can ever use of doing what we're doing, right? Anytime that we limit people using their brain to put solutions together is a really good flag for us to say, are we reliant or too dependent on a tool or technology because now people don't feel like they can or need to bring their brain to work. So that's always the balance that we use when we start thinking about when and should we be using AI as a possible solution in this situation.
All right, perfect. Well said. So the next question is from somebody who's starting off their career as a computer science engineer. So their question is, what skills, languages, or tools do we need as a beginner for QA? Do we need to code? It's always nice to code, I'd say. It's always nice to know how to code. I'll give you an example. Testim is one of those these newest, Tricentis products that is out there. It's a classic record and playback like we had Selenium IDE back in the day. But then not even all of these newer or latest tools, record and playback tools, they will not actually let you capture your entire test. You will need to code, and it's always nice to know how to code. Like Marcel just said, you can duplicate your code or mix and merge your code from one tool or one scripting language to another, but it's always nice to know how to code. I know manual testing is not dead. It's not dead yet. And chances are it won't be in the next 10-15 years, but it's always nice to know how to script. I hope I said that correctly. All right. So now the good old question: should there be ethical AI compliances? Should there be ethical AI compliances? Okay, I'll rephrase that. So should ethical AI compliances be introduced? Now, again, that's the good old question. We're seeing OpenAI with and Elon Musk with a bunch of things that he's out there and saying. That's another rabbit hole that we can sort of go down, but since time is of the essence, so
Uh,
Melissa, maybe a quick short answer from you on that one.
Yes. I mean, as I mentioned, I think the guidelines and the compliancy that we created was one of the best things that we did. We realized that there were so many folks using AI and taking their own individual path and using or learning about AI and then implementing it within the company that we knew that we needed to provide that service of support. So I'm a big fan of that. Again, as long as it's not so prescriptive where we cause a human to not have to use their brain in order to implement them, right? It's balancing out those creative solutions. But wholeheartedly, I agree with that.
All right. So we've got someone who just asked us, and then maybe they did not get Marcel's joke when it came to learning about new tools from YouTube. So somebody asked, what's the right place, where we can hear, read, learn, about the new tools out there in the market. So guys, I think you've got a couple of people, Melissa and Marcel. You can probably follow them on LinkedIn, reach out to them, and follow whatever new posts or new classes that these guys are sharing. But anything else that any specific blogs or any creators that these guys may want to tune into or might want to follow. Of course, being open, being out there, attending similar webinars is one of them things. But any specific person or any specific thing that comes to your mind where you might want to sort of that people are aware. Marcel, you might want to answer that.
For me, what's my practice or what I'm doing? I'm trying to just follow some interesting people, and sometimes they reshare something, or maybe they like some other post, and then I like their friends or acquaintance on the network. And via that, and I was doing that on LinkedIn and also on Twitter. Nowadays, Twitter looks a bit strange, at least for me. Maybe that's just the functionality. Not I cannot find any interesting content there anymore. So I don't know what happened, or we maybe know. But these two tools might be interesting. And again, YouTube. I really use YouTube if I need something. I just trying to find something like summary of playwright testing or summary of, I don't know what was the last one that AI tool, LangChain. Is it correct? LangChain, or whatever you want to find, you can find a lot on YouTube and see some first, I don't know, 5 minutes. You might find it interesting or not, and then I don't know, blog post or just chat with any AI.
Let's call it reading and being a little active on LinkedIn. So that's where you've got a lot of these organizations that are marketing their tools. So that's one of them things that you can probably take a look at and just read and be open to new things. So a couple more questions. I am just going to take the last one. So what do you think about Tosca? Is it a good tool? I've used it personally. I like it. It's just that you have to pay a bunch of money for it. So that's one of the things. Melissa and Marcel, would you want to weigh in on that? Or, shall we call it a wrap? If, you feel it's a slightly, we don't want to go down that line of.
I think all tools have both benefits and not benefits of using them. I do not necessarily have a tool that I have a favor. I'm in a unique position where I have an opportunity to look across a lot of tools that are on the market now. So part of my role is to be familiar with what their capabilities are. But I don't have an opinion on Tosca of whether it is a good tool or not.
I think any good tool that fits your needs, that's a good tool. As long as, whatever you wish for it to do or the purpose, you've implemented it for, as long as your goals are met, I think any tool is a good tool. As long as you know how to do it, use it efficiently, and your targets are met. So all tools are good tools because there's a reason why they were created. Of course, one might be, a tad better than the other one. That's okay. That's how that's how the industry is. That's how we promote a really hungry industry that's out there to help you. All right. So bang on the last minute, I think we are gonna call it a wrap. So, before I thank you, Melissa and Marcel, I would really like to thank, everyone who joined us. I hope they understood, they swallowed and digested a portion of all the wise words and wise piece of information based on Marcel and Melissa's wonderful experience in the testing domain. And then Melissa and Marcel, I am really thankful again to you guys for giving us an hour of your busy schedule, and it was really amazing. We learned a lot. I mean, I definitely did. I don't know about the rest of the guys. So I hope we would get to, since this is a part of a new series that we're working on. So hopefully somewhere sooner down the line, we would really love to hear from you guys again. Maybe on a similar topic, maybe on a different one. But then it's all things testing, A to Z. Thank you so much for your time, guys.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Take
Thank you
care.
for having me.
Be in touch.
Have a good day. Bye.